It really hasn't been that long since the Kraken had that 5-game winning streak that ended with a decisive win over the Ducks. But it still does somehow feel like it's been quite a while since the Kraken had this kind of a no-doubt victory. And boy, did I miss it. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken stay in Nashville, and this time defeat the Predators 7-2. Now yes, I'm sorry, this video is coming out quite a while after the game finished, as it started at 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. I had some other stuff going on during the day on Saturday, and, well, we did stream for the game, so for those of you that were able to join, again, thank you very much for joining, and if you weren't, at least the live reaction was there while we waited for this video to come out. Or, I guess you waited, I'm doing it right now. And oh, what a game it was for the Kraken! Although, there were some points during this game where things got a little bit closer than we might have liked, especially considering some of the late period comebacks the Kraken have given up to at least go to overtime, regardless of what ends up happening there. But this time, they not only hang on, but put it well out of doubt once that third period gets going. However, as we start the first period, there are a couple of changes in the lineup for the Kraken. One is that Geeky moves up to the second line in place where Frodin was, playing on the wing for maybe the first time this season, as he's been playing center pretty much entirely on that fourth line. And then also, with him moving out of the fourth line, Donato comes back into the lineup and centers that fourth line. But the biggest move still was Grubauer back from the illness in place of Decord, as Decord was a healthy scratch for this game, still with the team, but they'll probably be trying to find a way to get him back to the AHL level if they think they can get him through waivers. Anyway, with that, we might as well just jump right into the game, as there are quite a few goals to cover, fortunately almost all of them Kraken goals, and it starts, just like the other two games on this road trip, early on in the first period, with the fourth line, and once again, for the second time in as many games in Nashville, with Daniel Sprong. Though this time, it isn't him creating the play, it's Ryan Donato on the rush chances. He makes a power move towards the net, which, since I've seen it asked what a power move means, it's a hockey term for, well, basically what Donato does here, forcing your way past a defender to make a upfront, basically point-blank shot on a goaltender, often going through or into the crease, which Donato does here, gets around the defender, gets that point-blank shot on Saros, where he tries to shove it through the 5-hole of Saros, between the legs if you don't know what that means, but Saros, being the great goaltender that he is able to make that save, getting the pad down. However, it bounces off that pad out to the side, where Sprong, following the play, is able to chip it over the pad and into the net to give the Kraken that 1-0 lead early on, and for Sprong, his third goal in as many games. But Nashville, in maybe as much disbelief as anyone else at how hot Sprong has been, now once again getting a consistent spot in the lineup, they decide to challenge this one for goaltender interference. At first, it wasn't clear that they had actually challenged it, so there was some discussion, at least on the Kraken broadcast, of whether or not it had been kicked into the net, and that's why they were reviewing it. It was pretty obvious that Sprong did get a stick on it, not his foot. So it is a challenge for goaltender interference, and you can kind of still see in the screenshot from this goal, by the way, Sprong on the bottom of that, you can't really see him there, but that is Sprong on the very bottom of the screenshot that is tipping it in. But you can also see there is a little bit of contact between Donato as he goes through the crease, between his skate and the pad of Saros. So, again, with the Kraken not having a great track record of goaltender interference reviews going their way, I was a little bit worried that this one was going to come off, but I think they did correctly decide, and obviously there's some bias there being a Kraken fan, but I still think it was the right call that the contact that was made didn't really force Saros' leg to move at all, and thus didn't prevent him from getting back to make the save on Sprong. And since it didn't prevent him to make the save, they decided to keep it as a good goal. In fact, coming back saying they confirmed it was a good goal, not just saying the play stood, so it is 1-0 Kraken once again early on. And not only that, but with the failed challenge by the Predators, the Kraken are going right to the power play with a chance to make it 2-0 early on. But the power play really doesn't go much of anywhere. In fact, I don't even know if the Kraken got a shot on goal in this power play. Either way, it is killed off pretty easily by the Predators, and then the parade to the penalty box starts as this first period got pretty chippy between the two teams. I guess there was some hurt feelings from the last game or something. Either way, the second game in a row seemed to be showing between the two. as there was a lot of pushing and shoving between whistles, and especially anytime the puck got around a net, which eventually leads to Nashville getting a power play right after this Kraken one, which the Kraken do an almost equally good job of killing that one off, although the Predators do get one shot off on goal, which is better than the Kraken could claim. The Kraken do get a pretty good push towards the offensive end between this power play from the Predators and the next one, which comes a few minutes after the first one came to an end for them. They get their second power play, and this one the Kraken kill off pretty well, not allowing a shot on goal. So the Predators at this point only have one shot on goal, and it's that one they got on their first power play, without a shot on goal to this point, 5-on-5 yet in the game. The Kraken would soon get another power play as there's a scuffle in front of their net. Unfortunately, that scuffle did involve Vince Dunn, who trades roughing calls, as well as Sissons, who was the one that traded the roughing call with Dunn, going to the box originally for goaltender interference as he runs into Grubauer. So the Kraken still end up with a power play, but they don't have Vince Dunn, the quarterback of their first unit. They do end up getting a shot on this power play, but by the time both teams have had their first two power plays of the game come to an end, both teams only have one shot on goal to show for those two power plays each. Thankfully, though, as the Kraken would, shortly after this second power play of the period, get their third chance on the power play, and now they're 5 games plus almost a full period and 2 more power plays in that period into a goalless streak for this power play, having gone, I think they said 0 for 11 up to this point on their last 11 attempts. This third power play does eventually find the back of the net. It comes on a very nice crossing pass through the crease, through the entire Nashville penalty kill, out to the other side for Eeli Tolvanen from Jared McCann. And Tolvanen gives it one handle and fires off a shot, top corner, over the glove hand and in, with a flashing Wemberg right in front of the net, which does give that last second screen of Saros, so he doesn't really see the shot right when Tolvanen takes it. And as a result, he opens up the short side of the net to try and get around Wemberg and get that line of sight on Tolvanen. And as he opens up that short side just a little bit, that's where the puck goes. And the screen from Wemberg, an unofficial assist for him, but an official one for McCann, and an official goal for Tolvanen in his return to Nashville. And with his 16th of the season, 14th with the Kraken since being claimed off of waivers from Nashville, number 20 makes it 2-0 Kraken, where it would stay for the last couple minutes going into 1. And by the end of that first period, not only are the Kraken leading 2-0, but the Predators haven't gotten another shot on goal, so they're still sitting on that lone shot on goal from their first power play, still without a shot at 5-on-5. Granted, half of this period was played on the power play, but still the Kraken defensively are very strong in their end of the ice at this point, not even allowing that many shot attempts, much less the one that actually gets on goal. I think it was 7 shot attempts is what the Nashville broadcast said in that first period from the Predators, and again, only one of them makes it all the way to the net and actually on it. Unfortunately, that streak of the Kraken outscoring the number of shots on goal by the Predators comes to an end pretty early on here in the second period. Within the first 2 minutes, the Predators do eventually get that second shot on goal, and the first one at even strength, and it finds the back of the net. It comes off of a very similar play, almost shockingly similar play to how Nashville scored their lone goal of the game on Thursday. Of course, not including the shootout, what actually happened while playing hockey, which the shootout isn't really. I mean, it even comes at the same end of the ice, being that it's in the second period, so the left end from where the camera's looking at it, the shot comes from Grubauer's left, just like it did with the cord. Once again, Grubauer able to make the easy save from the shot from the outside, but it bounces off of his right pad, just like it did with the cord, out to a Nashville player, straight to him, and he finds the vacated net to pull the Nashville Predators to within 1. This time it doesn't tie the game like the one that went against a cord did in the previous game, but the Predators, early on in the second, are able to cut that lead in half. And then, of course, right off the ensuing faceoff, Eberle gets his stick caught, I think accidentally, in the legs of one of the Nashville players who has the puck. That guy goes down. Eberle goes to the box for a tripping call, which, even if he didn't mean to, there's no argument from him. It was absolutely a trip. The Predators go to the power play with a chance to tie it still early on in the second, which, once again, they aren't really able to make much of anything happen with this power play, as the Kraken do a good job of killing it off. And this second period is a fairly evenly played one between the two teams. The Kraken, I think, still are getting the better of the flow of play, but the Predators are starting to get their shots on goal and keeping it pretty even, at least in this period throughout it. The Kraken still with the slight edge, but the Predators certainly are getting more than one shot like they did in the first. Eventually, the Kraken get another power play. They don't score on that one, and it looks like we're going to get to the end of 2 with the score still 2-1. But then, with just under 3 minutes left in the period, Tolvanen in the Kraken end blocks a shot with his skate, is able to get it to his stick and dump it out, banking it off the boards, and pretty healthily dumping it out at that as it clears the entire neutral zone and gets into the Nashville end. And the only player, at least skater anyway, who has a chance to get to it is Oliver Bjorkstrand as he tries to chase it down to get the breakaway, but coming way out of his net to prevent that and getting to it just before Bjorkstrand is UC Saros. And if you don't believe me that he was way out of his net, he was literally at the top of the faceoff circles, so most of the way through his end of the ice before crossing the blue line. And look, the honest truth is that this is probably the right play from Saros. After all, if he doesn't make it or hesitates at all and doesn't come that far out, it's a breakaway for Bjorkstrand, and even if Bjorkstrand has been a bit snakebit this season, he is a very good goal scorer and can definitely make a team pay on a breakaway. So Saros, at least the first part of this play, is probably the right one, but then as he goes to try and clear the puck back out of their end, he ends up hitting Tolvanen right in the gut on the blue line as he followed the play as well, keeping it onside with him again being on the blue line, keeping the puck from getting across it. It falls right to his stick as his momentum carries him into the offensive end, eventually just whacking it into the wide open net with Saros still not even in the same neighborhood as his goal. And for Saros, yeah, just like Dangle will probably be saying on Thursday, as this will almost certainly be in the Dang It's video, that's a dang it. I'm sure there will also be some, if you're a goaltender, 10 the goal type of things being screamed. But I will say that, and this is something that was true of the 2 games Decord got to play, it is kind of fun watching a goaltender be willing to play the puck, pass it, go out of his net, and become a part of the play, especially when it's an opposing goaltender. And yeah, when it looks bad, it looks really, really bad. But like we said, this is probably the right play by Saros. Just maybe don't try to clear it through an opposing player next time. But the Kraken, and I'm sure especially Eeli Tolvanen, will happily take it, as it's now 3-1 Kraken going into the end of 2, and for Tolvanen, he's now got 2 goals in this second game back in Nashville, with a chance for the hat trick in the third, which, spoiler alert, unfortunately he won't end up getting, but boy would that have been fun. As we do get into the third though, once again there's another early goal, just like the Kraken scored early in the first and the Predators early in the second. And I think you can probably tell by the tone of my voice which team is going to score here early on in the third. Sure enough, less than a minute in, the Predators get into the offensive end, and it's a pretty harmless seeming just shot towards the net from outside, kind of in the same spot that Sprong fired the puck at the net in the early part of that Dallas game that Tanev tipped in. And while this isn't a crash towards the net like Tanev had to score this one, it's just Duchesne with his stick on the ice between this shot and the goal, ramps off of Duchesne's stick and right past the shoulder of Grubauer and into the net, which I will say, for Grubauer, this is probably one he has to have. I mean, sure, you can't predict the nice tip by Duchesne, but he probably should have had that post closed off and had his shoulder right up against it, and if he had, this puck probably would have gone off of his shoulder and stayed out. Unfortunately, though, he doesn't close off that post, leaving about a 6-inch gap between his shoulder and the post, and that's right where the puck goes straight through the spot his shoulder would have been and probably should have been had he closed off that near side. And you could try to argue that he's just trying to keep himself in position to make sure the puck doesn't go past the other side of him and into the net that way, but from the angle this puck is coming at, I don't really think there's any way, even with him up against the post, that the puck is going to get past him into the net from that other side. So yeah, unfortunately, this one's probably on Grubauer, and it does pull the Predators to within 1. But to the delight, and I think more than anything else, probably relief of Kraken fans everywhere, it would not stay a 1-goal game very long, and the rest of this third period was all Kraken, as the Nashville defense, which had been extremely solid through the entire game on Thursday, and at least the first 2 periods of this one, pretty much just completely falls apart here in the third, and it starts just a couple minutes later as the Kraken, admittedly on a pretty nice passing play, just kind of walk the Predators down towards their net. It's Dunn getting a pass from the crease, where actually starts with Beniers getting a pass to Dunn as he enters the zone. Dunn coming down the slot, passes it to McCann on the side. McCann takes it up next to the net and then passes it right across, pretty much what he did with Tolvanen, just closer to the net on that power play goal in the first. But again, this one's closer to the net, and it goes out to the far side to Adam Larsson, who buries it top corner once again over the glove hand of Saros to give the Kraken the 4-2 lead, and once again a bit of a safety net with that 2-goal cushion. And then, right off the faceoff, the Kraken are back in the offensive end with a great chance off of a rebound for Schwartz right in front of the net. But an equally great save, or actually even a better save, is made by Saros to keep this one out. So the Kraken are not able to make it 5-2. At least not just yet. That would come a couple minutes later on another rush chance. It's a 2-on-1 that turns into a 3-on-2 as Beniers carries the puck into the offensive end with McCann on his other side. Eventually, Dunn getting up into the play. Beniers drops it off for Dunn. Dunn back to Beniers. Beniers fires off the shot, and it's into the back of the net as he finally gets number 20. 13 games without an official goal that he gets credit for in the end. We did think at one point that he got number 20 at home, but that eventually got credited to Schwartz, who tipped it in front. But Beniers finally does get his 20th goal. This one's not changing. And on top of that, his 50th point on the season as he becomes the 4th Kraken player to equal McCann's record for the team last season. And from here, or honestly more from, I guess, when the Kraken scored early on in the period to make it 4-2, this third period pretty much turns into, well, like, when a dam breaks, there's like a little bit of a trickle of water at first, and then it becomes more and more, and suddenly it just gets out of control. That's pretty much what this third period is for the Kraken, as they take a few minutes to score after that 4th one to get their 5th one, and it's less time before the 6th one comes. This one off of just a complete defensive breakdown by the Predators, as it's Geeky that hounds a guy trying to get through the neutral zone, so he decides to just whip 180 to get away from Geeky and throw a pass across the blue line to his teammate. But what he doesn't see is that McCann is on that blue line right in the path of it. McCann picks it up, skates it in on the breakaway, and buries it top corner, once again over that same glove hand. So, yeah, bit of a mistake there from whoever that defender is. I'm sure he'll be saying dang it as well. Maybe not quite as much as the Saros empty netter. Either way, the Nashville defense having some issues. And then even shorter amount of time, the Kraken, less than a minute later, I think, or maybe just over a minute later, get another rush chance. And this one, I was a little, I mean, it was 6-2 at this point, so it didn't seem like it was really going to matter. But it's a rush chance once again, 2-on-1 that kind of turns into more of a 3 or 4-on-2. But Bjorkstrand has the puck, and instead of taking the shot, he waits until the last possible second to try and make a pass across. But at that point, there's already a guy laying on the ground in that passing lane, and it just goes right into his gut and stays out. So I don't know why Bjorkstrand doesn't take the shot here. But the puck stays alive in the play and just kind of hack and whack in front of the net. And eventually, it bounces up in the air, and Bjorkstrand is one of 3 guys whacking at it. He's able to get a backhand shot off, goes top corner, and the Kraken make it 7-2. At which point, the dam is empty, or I guess the lake behind the dam is empty, however you want to look at it. The Kraken at this point decide, all right, they've had enough. We'll just let the rest of this period go, as they kind of just play keep away and almost play sort of the old New Jersey trap and just pass the puck around in their defensive end a bunch. They make the old college try to get in the offensive end and make it look like they're still trying to score. But honestly, at this point, they're really just trying to get this game over with and also play solid defense to make sure they don't give Nashville any garbage time goals, which they don't get. And this game does finish with that 7-2 score. And not only does it finish 7-2, but it also finishes with the Predators getting outshot 39-16. Now, the 39 is impressive in its own right. The Kraken certainly having more goals in this game, in part because their offense was better, though I do think that part of the reason for this game being as lopsided as it was more just the Nashville defense finally falling apart after 5 periods of very solid defense against the Kraken in that third period. But again, aside from that 39 goals in the offense the Kraken were able to get, the 16 for Nashville is tied for the second fewest the Kraken have ever given up in a game, and sets a franchise record for the fewest shots on goal allowed in a road game. previous record that was tied between a couple of games, a couple this season and at least one last season. Previous record was 18, so they managed to break that with 2 to spare, and then also set an NHL record, or they officially take it completely for their own. I think they were tied going into this game, but officially set an NHL record for the team with a biggest increase in standing points from their first season to their second season with still 10 games to play. And although I don't think they'll win all 10 of those games, still potentially 20 more points to add to it. So even though, sure, we might have been a bit nervous after that early third period goal by the Predators to pull within 1, it turns out to be a breath of fresh air for Kraken fans. Tolvanen gets 2 goals. The Kraken set records for shots on goal allowed on the road, a record, NHL record that'll stand until there's another expansion and maybe even through that, which hopefully doesn't come for a long time, but that's a whole separate issue. And then to cap it all off, Bobby Wagner returns to the Seahawks, which has absolutely nothing to do with the Kraken, but it was a good day in Seattle sports all around. I mean, the Mariners lost in spring training, but it's spring training, who really cares? As for what this win means for the Kraken playoff chances, well, as we've gone over, they were already pretty good coming into this game, and honestly still would have been pretty good had the Kraken lost this one in regulation. But with the win against probably the most likely team to jump into the playoffs, if a team is going to jump into the playoffs in the Western Conference that isn't already there, with the Flames pretty much all but out at this point, although the Flames did win today. Not only do the Predators obviously lose in regulation with the Kraken beating them, but the Jets also end up losing with the 4-1 loss to the Kings in regulation. So the Kraken pick up 2 points on both of the teams behind them, both of whom would have to jump the Kraken in order for Seattle to miss the playoffs entirely. Now Seattle has 8 points in hand over the Predators, even with Nashville having played 1 fewer game. And they've got 3 points in hand over the Jets, with the Jets having played 2 more games. Also, again, with the Seattle schedule very easy the rest of the way, and both of those teams having a couple of the harder schedules left. So again, and I'm sure it won't be the last time, it's pretty safe to say that the Kraken, while they haven't clinched anything yet, and it will still be a few games before that happens, they're almost guaranteed to make the playoffs at this point. The question, though, of who they'll end up playing in the first round is still pretty up in the air. Right now, the most likely scenario is that they'll end up as that top wild card, playing the, again, most likely winner of the Central Division, which could be easily any one of 3 teams, that being the Wild, the Avalanche, and the Stars, all separated by 1 or 2 points and 1 game between them. So again, with still 10 or 11 games left to play, there's a lot that could happen there. Obviously, at least to me anyway, from a Kraken perspective, I'd rather probably face the Wild or the Stars than an Avalanche team who's getting hot at the right time and has just tons of talent. Obviously, the defending champions, and even with some turnover and injuries, that's a very good team. There's still a decent chance the Kraken could end up re-jumping the Oilers into that 3rd spot, in which case they'd probably end up facing the Kings, but the Kings and Golden Knights are still pretty close, so it could go either way in that spot. And if they somehow too get jumped by one of Nashville or the Jets and end up in the 2nd wildcard spot, then they probably will end up against the Golden Knights winning the Pacific. Pretty much then the only 2 teams that will make the playoffs that they don't have a great chance of facing are the Oilers and whichever team gets the other wildcard spot. Anyway, obviously there's still a lot up in the air, and as far as this game against the Predators, we still got 3 stars to get to. The first star, again, it's obvious, clearly Eeli Tolvanen in his return to Nashville, or I guess 2nd return to Nashville with the previous game on Thursday, scoring 2 goals, 1 on the power play, which was, speaking of size of relief, a very good thing to see the Kraken once again scoring on a power play, and then that second one with the clutch stop there on the blue line to keep it onside, and then putting it into the empty net, which, even at that, the puck was still kind of bouncing in front of him, and sure, the net's wide open, but it's a shot from well outside on a bouncing puck, so not necessarily the most easy shot for most people, but I guess for an NHL player and someone whose last name is Golvanen, I guess it wasn't that hard. Either way, 2 goals. Sure, it would have been fun to see him get the hat trick, but a great game from Eeli. My second star of the game, again, I'm not going to argue with the official stars here. I'm going with Jared McCann with the goal and 2 assists on the night. Might have been the best Kraken player, but again, Tolvanen with it having the meaning it does with him returning to Nashville and still 2 goals. I thought it was a pretty clear choice who gets the first star. McCann certainly gets the second star. once again, he just continues to remain hot. He had a number of shots on goal in the first 2 periods in this game, but just couldn't get one to go, which is pretty much the opposite of what we've seen all season from McCann, as he has a near 20% shooting percentage right now. He does eventually get that one to go on the breakaway chance at the turnover on the blue line by Nashville. And then third star, once again, I'm going with the guy that's probably going to end the season as at least the Kraken MVP. He's not going to get any heart votes, but he'll, I think, probably get the Kraken MVP, that being Vince Dunn. Another 2-assist game for him, and he just continues to take off with that points lead on the team. Although actually he and McCann are pretty close there, both right around 60 points now. I think McCann is right at 60 and Dunn at 61, or maybe it's 60 and 59. Either way, the two of them are taking off with that. Still great to see Beniers get his 50th point, so good one there. Bjorkstrand gets 2 points on the game. Really just an all-around great game from the Kraken. Offensively, certainly scoring 7 goals on one of the NHL's best goaltenders. Yes, they were definitely helped out in the third period by a Nashville defense that completely imploded on itself, but still they were able to take advantage of the mistakes that Nashville made and capitalize on a number of them. Defensively, again, we talked about them only allowing the 16 shots and franchise record for fewest shots allowed in a road game. And yeah, more of this to come is hopefully what we'll see from the Kraken. The next 2 games do get a pretty good test, as they'll face the Wild and Kings, 2 of the more likely teams they could end up facing in the first round. So a lot of interest there. And then they got 5 pretty easy ones, 3 against Arizona and a Vancouver and Chicago game mixed in there, before finishing the season with 2 in Vegas. Well, against Vegas. One's in Vegas, one's in Seattle, but anyway. That having been said, enough rambling from me. If you have made it to this point, again, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below, who your stars would be, highlights from this game. Obviously, the only real bummer from this one being that Tolvanen couldn't finish off the hat trick. Anyway, though, if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. Also, if you, again, joined for the stream, thank you much for joining that. If you did like or enjoy this video, or even the stream, I guess, feel free to let me know down with the buttons below that help support the channel and all that good stuff. Obviously, I'm starting to lose it a bit here, so I'll just close it out by saying, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken! And welcome back, Bobby.